The Switch 2 has been out long enough now that we can stop guessing and start sorting. So I went through everything worth your time and pulled the 20 games I'd actually tell a friend to play.
We'll practice all sorts of awesome moves. One after
Starting here, because Bonanza is the exact game I used to justify buying the console in its first month. This is DK's first proper 3D platformer since the Nintendo 64 days, and the hook is perfect. You can smash almost everything in sight. You dig through the ground, punch through walls, rip out chunks of rock, and hurl them at enemies. Sounds minor on paper, but entire levels are built around that destructibility, and I kept catching myself tunneling sideways for no reason other than curiosity. The Mario Odyssey kinship is obvious right away, and no wonder, since it's the same team. Pauline as your sidekick adds a lot of warmth. It's not flawless, the camera occasionally goes rogue, and the frame rate dips in the most destruction-heavy moments. But those are nitpicks aimed at a game I'd recommend to anyone with the new console anyway.
Diana, you're here. The
Next up, the one I'd basically stopped believing in. Capcom announced Pragmata way back in 2020, then it vanished off the radar, and I'd already written it off in my head. Then it just showed up. The story follows astronaut Hugh and android girl Diana fighting their way off a lunar station and back to Earth. The interesting part is how it plays. You shoot and hack an enemy in real time at the same time, and that split focus genuinely keeps you thinking on your feet. What pleased me most is that it runs clean on the new console day and date with every other platform, since Capcom's RE engine is polished to a mirror shine. It moved over 2 million copies in a couple of weeks. 5 years of waiting didn't go to waste, and I'm glad the bet on a fresh mechanic paid off.
The task I started. These trees, everything went out of control. As pregnant.
If the first Hades ate half a year of your life, brace for a relapse. The sequel has left early access, and this time you play as Melinoa, sister of Zagreus, going to war against Cronos. The roguelike formula is the same, but everything runs deeper. New upgrades, witchcraft, tools for gathering resources between runs. Supergiant's signature style still floors me, and the soundtrack is still in my playlist. It was a timed console exclusive for Nintendo, and new console owners got a nice treat. 120 frames per second in TV mode at 1080p. The original Switch runs it at 60 frames per second and 720p, which is also great, and if you own both, the upgrade is free. Cross saves with PC are here too. Sequels rarely outgrow the original in every way, but to me, this one does.
About ready to give in?
No,
I was good.
Here's where my feelings get mixed. Mario Kart World is the new console's launch exclusive and the first fresh Mario Kart in a decade. As a racer, it's a celebration. 24 karts on track, a knockout tour mode that stitches several courses into one long marathon, plus wall riding and rail grinding. The racing itself is mirror-polished joy, and the soundtrack with its live arrangements is something I'll happily listen to away from the game. But the headline edition, the open world, mostly let me down. Free roam looks pretty but feels empty. You collect stickers and medallions and get almost nothing back. Then there's that $80 price tag, which still mildly annoys me. The visuals, on the other hand, are the best the series has ever looked and don't stutter even with a full grid of rivals. Worth buying, but I'd come for the racing, not the promised open space.
Can you make it all the way to the finish line?
6 years of waiting and a mountain of memes, and Silksong actually became real. This Hollow Knight follow-up puts you in control of Hornet, and the pace is meaner and faster. More acrobatics, dozens of new bosses, the unfamiliar kingdom of Farloom. It's the same hypnotic Metroidvania with a Souls-like heart, where the difficulty is part of the fun rather than a punishment. At launch, it ran great on both Switch and the new console, which honestly surprised me after such a long silence from the studio. It gets better. A dedicated Switch 2 edition with higher frame rates, higher resolution, and extra graphical effects is promised for 2026, and Switch owners get it free. There's a story expansion on the way too. For $20, this is an absurdly generous package.
That's where navigation comes in handy.
A masterpiece everyone's already seen, now just nicer to live with. One important caveat up front, the Switch 2 edition adds 0 new content, it's pure technical polish. But it's the kind you feel. A rock-solid 60 frames where the original used to choke, 4K docked, 1080p handheld, HDR, and far snappier loading. The Korok Forest, where the console used to barely survive, now flies. There's also a Zelda Notes app with voice navigation to shrines. It's not spotless. The upscaling is old rather than DLSS, and some shadows flicker with rough anti-aliasing in spots. The upgrade runs about $10, or it's free for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers on the expansion tier. If by some miracle you've never been to Hyrule, here's both your excuse and the best version to do it in.
Forok's hiding around Hyrule.
A sharp mood swing into something dark and poetic. South of Midnight grows out of American Deep South folklore, and the first thing that grabs you is the look. The image deliberately stutters like stop-motion puppetry, and I haven't seen anything quite like it in ages. Hazel becomes a weaver, mending broken bonds and restless souls while untangling her own family's past. It used to be an Xbox and PC exclusive, but Microsoft is comfortable sending its games elsewhere now, and it reached the new console as the Weaver's Edition with all the extra content. The version leans on DLSS and aims for 1440p docked, so the signature style stays intact. One downside did sting me. The release is digital only, no physical edition. It's a niche, acquired taste, but these strange handcrafted projects are exactly my thing.
This ain't even the weirdest thing I've seen today.
To escape back to reality through the very worlds that they created.
Hands above your head.
This one's a must-buy if you've got someone to sit beside you. Split Fiction from the It Takes Two creators is built entirely on co-op. Two writers, Mio and Zoe, fall into their own stories and bounce between sci-fi and fantasy, swapping mechanics so often you simply can't get bored. On idea density alone, it's one of my favorite co-op games of the last few years. Now the bad news, on the new console, it's a noticeable step down from the PS5 visually, 30 frames per second docked, around 40 handheld with a simpler picture. But the friend pass is intact, letting two people play the full game off one copy. Plus, there's crossplay and game share, which even pulls in an original Switch owner. The lack of a physical release and the nearly 70GB appetite bug me. Still, if there's no other platform on hand, it's a safe bet for a night in with a friend.
And now, you can fly around in the sea. So you will, for every level in the game, jump between a sci-fi world
Ubisoft's giant open world set in feudal Japan, and the fact it runs on a handheld at all still slightly amazes me. The story follows two leads, the shinobi Naoe and the warrior Yasuke, and the developers call this port one of the toughest technical jobs the studio has taken on. The goal they set was honest, a stable 30 frames both docked and handheld, with HDR and a clever use of variable refresh rate for smoothness. They added touch controls for the map and menus. It didn't escape cuts, some effects like water reflections got trimmed, and the big claws of Awaji expansion didn't make the launch bundle, shipping separately instead. And yes, it comes on a game key card rather than a full cartridge, which is a personal minus I always keep in mind. I won't call it a benchmark port, but for a beast this size it's a respectable effort. Remember what a disaster this game's launch was? Well, after years of patches, Cyberpunk 2077 is a superb RPG. And on the new console, it's arguably the best portable version of Night City, beating even the Steam Deck for clarity and smoothness. The Ultimate Edition includes the Phantom Liberty expansion, so there's hundreds of hours in here. I have to tip my hat to CD Projekt for the controls. Gyro aiming, a mouse mode through the Joy-Cons, motion, touchscreen, an absurd amount of care went in. It's not perfect. The frame rate wanders around 30 to 40 and dips in firefights and while driving, and I'd avoid quality mode entirely. Progress carries over from PC and other consoles. If you want to sink 100 hours into Night City on the go, this is an excellent choice. Though on stronger hardware, it's obviously prettier.
Well, what do you think?
It's important.
Become stronger.
Urban redevelopment plan. Here, we'll get a glimpse into the lives of the Pokémon and Pokémon live easygoing lives in Lumio City.
I approach Pokémon warily since Scarlet and Violet crawled along back in the day and dented my trust. Legends ZA is a relief on that front. Stability is noticeably better here. The whole thing takes place in Lumio City in the Kalos region, battles are real-time now, and Mega Evolutions are back in the spotlight. Now, the important fork. On the new console, it runs at 60 frames, sharp and surprise-free, and that's clearly the way to play. On the original Switch, it's 30 frames per second with simpler textures and more noticeable pop-in and flicker, but for once, it holds together decently. My main gripe isn't technical, it's the scope. After the open spaces of Legends, Arceus being boxed into one compact city is a real step back, and it disappointed me a little. The upgrade to the new console version costs a laughable $10, and is well worth it.
People and Pokémon to coexist. A company named Quasartico Inc. is carrying out an urban...
5 years ago, nobody would have believed it. Now, Final Fantasy VII Remake is one of the best ports on the new console. The game reimagines the 1997 classic, covering the Midgar chapter, with fast, genuinely tactical combat built around staggering enemies. The Intergrade version adds the Yuffie episode. Technically, it's a locked 30 frames per second, 1080p docked, with DLSS holding the sharpness, though handheld can drop toward 20 in heated scenes. But overall, the picture nearly reaches the PS5 version, which for a hybrid is a small miracle to me. And a treat for fans. The follow-up Rebirth and the final third part are already confirmed, so the trilogy is set to be delivered in full.
Well, look who it is.
After more than 20 years, Kirby is back behind the wheel. Air Riders is a sequel to that cult but underrated GameCube racer, and it's directed by Masahiro Sakurai himself, the Smash Bros. Creator. Fair warning, don't expect a traditional racing game. The point here isn't the finish line, it's City Trial, where you tear around an arena collecting upgrades before everyone gets thrown into a random challenge. The controls are deceptively simple. The machine practically drives itself, and the depth hides in the drifting and the mountain of things to unlock. They added a story mode called Road Trip and brought back the old top ride. This new console exclusive runs smoothly and is stuffed to the brim with content. I won't pretend the core gameplay clicks for everyone, and it didn't grab me right away either, but it's very Sakurai. Looks simple, and then you can't put it down.
Grace.
The 9th mainline Resident Evil, and by my read, the biggest horror release for the new console. Here's what counts. It launched on its day and date with every other platform. No 6-month wait for a port. We're introduced to a new lead, Grace Ashcroft, and sent back to a ruined, abandoned Raccoon City with all the trademark mix of survival, puzzles, and resource management. Capcom's RE engine scales beautifully to the hardware, and being able to switch between first and third person adds freedom. It's already past 5 million copies sold, so the franchise is in great shape. If you wanted a real modern Resident Evil on the new console from day one, this is it. No asterisks.
The team has
settled on a person of interest. Someone with ties to.
I know. That's where your mother was murdered.
This is horror for the patient, and I've got complicated feelings about it. Cronos. The New Dawn is a new IP from Bloober Team, the people behind the recent Silent Hill 2 remake, and it openly bows to Dead Space and Silent Hill. The premise is strange. You play as the Traveler, hopping between a grim future and 1980s Poland to extract people's souls from before the catastrophe. What pulled me in most were the world and the story, told through notes, graffiti, and details, with an atmosphere that's genuinely unusual for the genre. But the weak spots are obvious. Combat is clunky, the inventory annoys, and on the new console, some reviewers flagged serious technical rough edges. I won't call it a masterpiece or recommend it to everyone, but if you, like me, value story and mood over responsive controls, give it a look, because it sticks with you.
Efficiency discipline is recommended.
There's no doubt that something is stirring.
Now to a big, cozy JRPG for the faithful. This is a remake of the classic 2004 Trails in the Sky from Falcom, the start of a saga many adore, set in the kingdom of Laborel with young Estelle. The original was sprite-based and text-heavy, and here it's been moved into full 3D with reworked combat, without losing that unhurried charm and meticulous world-building. The new console version is set up cleverly. It's a paid upgrade of literally $1 on top of the regular Switch version, bumping resolution and frame rate and speeding up loads. Zero new content, just polish. If you get hooked, good news. A remake of the second part is already announced for fall 2026. To me, this is just about the best entry point into one of the most respected series in the genre.
As long as we're there to support one another, we can overcome anything.
Try to defeat me.
Don't ever underestimate a bracer.
Mother of all, she created our world, the land of Orstel.
Love Square Enix's HD 2D style? Here's seconds. Octopath Traveler 0 is a series prequel, and it's essentially an adaptation of the mobile champions of the continent, but now with full voice acting and on the big screen. A first for the series, you create your own protagonist this time, and the story revolves around revenge and rebuilding your hometown of Wishvale, which was burned to the ground. You can recruit over 30 companions, run parties of 8, and at its core, it's that same turn-based combat with break and boost. One thing that mildly annoys me, there's no upgrade path at all between the Switch and Switch 2 versions, so you pick your platform up front with no transfers later. The physical comes on a game key card. Not a revolution, but a generous, heartfelt adventure for those already in the club.
Engage in you. You are the potato.
Now for pure arcade adrenaline. Marvel Cosmic Invasion is a beat-em-up from Tribute Games and Dotemu, the very people who made the excellent TMNT, Shredder's Revenge, working the same magic in the Marvel universe. Juicy full-color pixel art, snappy combos, and a tag system where you swap 2 heroes on the fly from a roster of 15, with Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Cosmic types like the Silver Surfer all in the mix. The plot has villain Annihilus unleashing his annihilation wave. It plays best in a group, up to 4 people locally or online, plus crossplay. It runs great on both Switch and the new console. They're already adding new fighters to the roster, and a physical release came separately on Switch 2 as a full cartridge. I melt for this kind of old-school brawler, and this one's among the best.
Dinosaurs? This place is rad! Full throttle!
Prism lens!
Toby Fox, the father of Undertale, finally dropped 2 new chapters of his parallel story and timed it to the console's launch. Deltarune lives in the same universe as Undertale, but in a different reality. You guide a teenager named Chris and company through the strange, dark world. Combat is hypnotic bullet dodging in the Touhou vein stitched onto a turn-based system, and Fox's humor and music still land dead on. 4 chapters are available now, the rest are promised as free updates, with Chapter 5 slated for 2026. The new console has a fun little touch, a tiny dedicated room with mouse controls on 2 Joy-Cons at once, only possible here. Progress from the older chapters carries over. For the price, there's an indecent amount of great material in here, and I'm happy to wait for the finale as long as it takes.
King Neptune come to rid the seas of pirate scum. Soon may the Dutch...
And we'll close the list with something cheerfully childish. Titans of the Tide is a new 3D SpongeBob platformer from Purple Lamp, the studio that's kept the Yellow Guys gaming adventures alive for years now. The setup is goofy in true series fashion. The egos of the Flying Dutchman and King Neptune collide, and spectral chaos spreads across Bikini Bottom. The main mechanic is swapping between SpongeBob and Patrick on the fly, with puzzles built around their different skills like a grappling hook and burrowing. A curious detail, it's the first Nickelodeon game on the new console, and it landed here earlier than on the original Switch, whose version got pushed back nearly a year. It comes on a game key card. Reviewers call it a solid but predictable platformer, and I'm inclined to agree. Sturdy family fun without any big revelations.
All this swapping. I can see my rock from here. Soon may the BFFs come to